I want to know, 25 years of experience, what are the top things you look for before you enter a trade? I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. The top things I look for before entering a trade. I guess the easiest way to approach this would be to kind of run through what my morning process is. I definitely want to be trading something quality, so it's not very often I trade a company that I've never heard that name before or just have no idea what it is. I want to know where my money's going, what I'm getting involved in, what this trade is all about and the reasons why. So for me, I'm a big believer in putting together all three sides of the market, right? So you have the fundamentals, what's going on inside the company. You have the technicals, what's happening on the chart. And then you have social sentiment. How do other traders feel about that particular stock? So when I start my process, I don't use a stock screener. I actually start on a news feed. So I'm looking for a reason as to why is that stock moving. Typically, if a stock has news, that's also what brings volume. And those are all things we need to be able to make a trade. So I'm looking for news. Once I find something that has a headline or some reason for a stock to be moving, the first thing I'll do is try to assign a fundamental valuation to that news. So, an example I use often, if I see company XYZ got a $100 million contract, I look at the market cap, that's $1 billion stock. Right away, I know that's 10%. This move is worth, or this news is fundamentally worth 10% to the stock. So, how much has it moved? How much has it not moved? How much room's there for me? All of those things come into question then. If there's no fundamental value, then I'll go through and start my technical evaluation. From there, I always start on the longest time frame. I start on the daily chart. You have your 50-day moving average, your 200-day moving average. I give them the most weight simply because they incorporate the most information. It takes 50 days of information, 200 days of information to draw those levels. So I want to know where those numbers are. Automatically, two free levels just looking at the daily chart. And then, of course, are there any gaps on the chart? Where is support? Where is resistance? All those things. From the daily chart, I'll then move to the hourly chart and repeat the same process. Support, resistance, gaps, areas of interest. Then I move to the 3-minute chart. The 3-minute chart, I have trade line, VWAP. And then again, where is support? Where is resistance? So between the daily chart, the hourly chart, and the 3-minute chart, I've got about a dozen numbers now. And I'm looking to see where are those numbers kind of overlapping? Is that number showing up multiple times? That's what's going to give me confidence that this is the correct support level or this is the correct resistance level because I'm seeing it in multiple time frames. And then from there, I'll examine the options chain. Once I figured out where my levels are on the stock, I'll move over to the options chain. I'll begin the process of evaluating which strike I want based on what I expect to happen with the stock itself. Typically, I'm buying an option that is currently out of the money, but if the stock moves the way that I think it's going to, that option will then move in the money. And then from there, I'm going to value it based on what is the intrinsic value of that option. So what I mean by that, an example I use, $10 price point, just because it's easy math. If I'm looking at a $10 stock and I think it's going to $12, I'm not going to buy the $12 call because the stock would have to move past $12 in order for that call to have intrinsic value. So in that example, I'll start to look at the $11 call. And right away, I know that if the stock does move to $12, that $11 call is going to be worth at least $1. So I value it based on that intrinsic value. What does it cost right now? If the option costs more than $1, there's no trade for me. If the option costs 95 cents, I'm not paying 95 cents to make $1. But if the option's, 50 cents or less, there's a chance for me to double my money. Now there's good value. I make the trade, so it's figuring out everything. It all started with a headline, just scanning news headlines and then moving into the chart evaluation, then moving over to the options chain. So moving through that whole process for every trade. And it sounds like a lot, but the entire process is probably a 90-second ordeal once you run through it and just do it. I hope that helps.